marketing mastering series, and today we're going to be discussing how to get started with email marketing. Just to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing with these sessions is today we're going to be focused on getting started with email marketing. And so that's going to be the focus of today's session. We're going to hold these every 2 weeks for StayFi customers. So the topic will change. So in 2 weeks from now, on July 9th, it will be mastering upselling with StayFi homepage. Then after that, on the 23rd, we're going to do generating revenue with StayFi text marketing. So really dive into our text marketing tool to go over review generations, types of campaigns, all of that. And then finally, on August 6th, we're going to be doing more on email marketing. So we're going to go and do some case studies and show different examples of what you can send through StayFi. And then, of course, we'll keep updating this with new topics as we go along. But going forward, this is going to be every 2 weeks. And it should be that when you enroll in this through Zoom, you're going to get invited to all future sessions as well. So you should see this as a recurring invite on your calendar if you want to keep coming and getting more insight into how to make the most of StayFi. Before I dive into the email section, we're going to just do a brief product update here to share what's new with StayFi. We recently added Ruckus hardware to StayFi, so you can now use Ruckus access points with our captive Wi-Fi solution. So if you already have Ruckus in any of your short-term rentals or buildings that you manage, we now support it. So we're still only going to sell the Ubiquiti Unify hardware, but if you already have Ruckus in place, we now work with that equipment as well. So if you have Ruckus or plan on implementing Ruckus in any buildings, you can email support@stayfi.com to get those also connected to StayFi. Now I'm going to dive into how to get started with email marketing. And the first step is to configure your DNS. So if you log into StayFi email marketing, and I'll show you this in a second in our actual account, and you see this yellow warning at the top of your page that says to improve deliverability of your emails, you'll need to set up DNS records to verify your sending domain. This is something you're going to want to do first before you do any email marketing. When you created your email marketing account, you selected which domain you want to send from, and then we sent you instructions on how to go do that, whether you use GoDaddy or Bluehost or any other domain, kind of the provider of your domain. If you can't find those instructions or are not sure what to do, you can email support@stayfi.com. Why you need to do this is simply in order to send emails successfully, you need to prove that you own the domain that you're sending from. Because if you didn't prove that you owned it, anyone could go and send emails, let's say from stayfi.com, pretend that they were StayFi. And so if you don't go ahead and do this, basically Google or Yahoo or Gmail, wherever you're sending emails, they'll look at your email and say, hey, this person hasn't proven that they own the domain they're sending from, and therefore we're going to put it into spam or not deliver it. So if you don't go ahead and do this, basically it's going to be very hard to email successfully because your emails are not going to get delivered to your intended recipients. So if you have this warning, it's really important that you go ahead and set that up. In a your StayFi account, it would look like this. To improve deliverability, you need to set up DNS records. Where you can check or change this domain. So here I want to send from stayfi.com. If you go to more settings and billing, you can add the domains that you want to send from. You can even have multiple domains here. So if you have multiple brands and want to send emails from different domains, you can add more here. Every domain you add, we're going to send you instructions. Then you would go to GoDaddy or whatever your DNS provider is and add those records. And then, of course, if you have any questions or can't figure it out, go emails to support@stayfi.com, as we have experience setting this up in all sorts of different domain providers. Step 2 to being successful with StayFi email marketing is to then centralize all your data into StayFi. The more emails you have in StayFi, the more successful you'll be because you'll have a bigger audience to market to. And there's four main places that you can source email data using StayFi. Number one is obviously the Wi-Fi data. That's the core product within StayFi. That's the captive portal where we collect information. I would say one important thing to check is that you are providing guests the correct network information. The biggest reason we see people not collect as much data as they potentially could is that guests are still logging on to the home's original Wi-Fi instead of the network that StayFi is broadcasting. So if you plugged our device into your property's router, that router is still broadcasting the original network in that property. And let's say you have a fridge magnet or a physical guidebook or check-in instructions. If those still have the old network name and password, guests are going to join that and not the StayFi guest network. So this right here where it says type guest, this is the network that you need guests to join to be successful and to get that captive portal. You can also add a password to that network here by clicking these three dots on the right, and then obviously you would share the name and password for this network. By default, this guest network name is the same across all properties, so it should be very simple to provide guests this information since it's the same in every home. And if you want to change that network name, you again go to edit, change the name here, and then make sure this is the guest network you're telling guests to join and not joining the old network. When we look at customers' accounts and we see they have some homes with a ton of guest data and other homes where they're not collecting any guest data or very little guest data, it's typically because those old other homes have the old Wi-Fi information laying around and guests are joining that network. The next place where you can source guest data is from your property management software. When you integrate your property management software, as an example here, I have Hostfully connected, but you can connect any of these. We will give you the option to automatically go through all the guest data that you have in your property management software and import it into StayFi. If maybe you skip this or you're not sure if you did it, on this guest list page, there's this import PMS guest data. And on here, you can select how far back in time you want to go to pull in guest data from your software into StayFi. So if you hit all time, what we do is we go through all of your bookings in your property management software, and we'll pull any guests that have a real email associated. So you might have a lot of guest records in your PMS with proxy emails like from Verbo or Airbnb. We don't pull those in, but any guest records with a real email we will pull in. And if those emails are associated with this other data, like next booking date, next booking source, last booking date, last booking source, we also pull that data in. So any relevant information you might want to use for marketing, we'll pull that in from your property management software. And that will be in another list in your email marketing account. So within your email marketing account, you'll see two subscriber lists, one PMS guest, one Wi-Fi guest. In this case, this is the data I pulled in from Hostfully, and then Wi-Fi guest is the data I'm pulling in from the Wi-Fi. Outside of Wi-Fi data and PMS data, you can also upload lists manually into StayFi. So for instance, if you have a list of emails outside of StayFi, let's say a list of homeowner emails, or maybe you use a property management software we don't integrate with. If you go to create a list and then continue to import here, you can upload a file where you have, names and emails of all your guests or homeowners or whatever that list is, and you can upload those into StayFi so you can bring in other data into the email marketing tool. Finally, the last thing that you can do with StayFi is you can also collect emails from your website. So once you have a list within StayFi, like I made this test list here, you'll see on the left there are sign up forms as an option. On here, this is how you can create different types of sign up forms for your website. One really great one that is successful is to create a pop-up for your website. So here you would decide what text you want to put, what fields you want to collect, and then when you save and publish this, you'll get this code here. This is the code that you then publish into the header of your website. So if you're using a website from your property management software or from a company like Boostly or Realtek, you can get this code and paste it into your site. Other ways is you can also paste code onto your site to create a form, as well as create a dedicated sign up page that you can publish and then like link to. So there's tons of ways to collect information on your website with a pop-up, with a form, or a sign up page that you can also feed into email marketing. So you can have data from any website visitors who want to submit their information there. So those are the 4 ways to collect guest data. Then once you start having data flow into your email marketing tool, what are you going to then do with this? The first thing that we recommend is to set up a Wi-Fi automation. So basically, whenever someone logs into the Wi-Fi, into StayFi in a property, we're going to automatically trigger an email to them. And here you can focus on introducing your brand. You can imagine if you have 10 guests in a property and the booker booked through Airbnb, they probably don't know who you are, don't know that you have an independent brand. In their mind, you're just a quote unquote Airbnb. This is a way to start to educate guests around who you are as an independent brand, that you're not just a quote unquote Airbnb, and will give them some value during the course of their stay. So obviously, if they're logging onto the Wi-Fi, it's typically the first day that they're there. So you want to provide relevant and helpful information for the course of their stay. And then, of course, you can start advertising about rebooking directly as well. And I'm going to go ahead and actually show you how to set up one of these automations within StayFi. So the first thing you want to do is go to automation here. And then you're going to go to create an automation. And I would just recommend hitting custom journey. And I'm going to call this Wi-Fi automation. I'll call it number 2 since I think I created a test one earlier. And then when you said the trigger will be subscriber joins the list. Now it's important to look down here and decide which list this is going to be. And I don't want it to be the PMS guest list because that would be whenever Hostfully receives a real email, not when someone joins the Wi-Fi. So in this case, I'm going to select StayFi Wi-Fi guests. And then I'm going to hit build your journey. And you can see here the trigger for this automation will be joins the StayFi Wi-Fi guest list. And then now I want to add a next step to this journey, and I'm going to add an email. On here, you can put Wi-Fi email, Wi-Fi welcome 1 will be the name of this step. I'm going to call it welcome to, and as this, I'm actually picked one of our customer brands. I'm going to say welcome to Stay Duvet. So I'm going to do everything from their brand. And I'm going to call this Stay Duvet. And then here, oops. Here is where I'm getting this warning because in this test account, I haven't authenticated my domain. Once you authenticate your domain, you'll be able to send this from, let's say, support@stayduvet.com or sales@stayduvet.com or info@ or someone's name, Ryan@stayduvet.com. Once you authenticate your domain, this warning will go away. Essentially, this is just letting you know that, hey, you're not actually authorized yet to send from the domain you want to send from. So you just want to make sure this warning goes away and that you've set that all up correctly. Then I'm going to go to add email content, and this is where we're going to design an email. Now, let's say you are a little cautious about creating a template to the email, as in maybe you're not ready and maybe you don't have branding assets to create a branded template that looks like one of these here. One of the best places to start is go to welcome here and send a very plain text email. So one that we're not going to put a lot of imagery into this email. We're just going to give the guests the essential information about your business and recommendations here, and then information about booking again in the future. The other nice thing about using a very plain text email is it's more likely if your guest uses Gmail to go into the main inbox and not into the promotional inbox. The more images you have, the more likely it is to go into the promotional inbox. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to have ChatGPT help me write this email. So I think with the key with using ChatGPT for something like this is creating a great prompt. And I want to show you how I would go about doing this. So I would say, I am a vacation rental property manager. And I can actually put in here the link to my website. And I am writing an email to welcome guests once they sign on to the Wi-Fi using StayFi. I'd like to not only welcome guests to the property, but also let them know to contact us and provide some local recommendations. Then I'd also like to share a promo code, Stay Duvet 10 for 10% off their next stay. This email will be a text email sent automatically from StayFi. And this gives me just a great start to this email. So I'm going to say, paste this in as the subject line, which I'll do after. I can go in here and just paste in this text here, and I'll show you how to fill in some of these merge fields in a second. So here you can see here, ChatGPT recommended I put in some personalized fields. So I'm just gonna say dear, and if you go to insert here, you can find personalization fields. So I can go to first name, and here there'll be a fallback. That's what this is here. So like basically if I don't have a first name, it will provide a fallback. In this case, I can leave the fallback blank, and I might just change this to hi. So if there was no first name, it would just be like hi. And then for welcome to property name, you go to insert custom fields, Wi-Fi guests, and this property will pull in the property name from StayFi. Let's say there wasn't a property name for some reason, which shouldn't happen, but I could put in here a fallback of Stay Duvet, so if that was empty, it would fill in with that. And then here, obviously, you would fill in the phone number, email address, local recommendations. Let's say you also use our homepage feature. So you could also put in here to purchase, late checkout, or find a list of recommended local activities. Check out our guidebook. And then here under personalization, custom fields, Wi-Fi guests, we also have our homepage URL here. So this will dynamically insert the URL to the StayFi homepage within the email. And then here we have this exclusive offer. And then of course, if I wanted to add a link to my website, I could do that here as well. And then down below, you might want to add your logo here, which I actually saved Stay Duvet's logo already in here. You don't need to add another section. Maybe you want to have these links to social media or not. But that's how easy it is to create a compelling welcome email that will be sent to every guest when they log into the Wi-Fi. And you can see here, I use these personalization fields to insert the property name and to insert the relevant homepage where maybe I've done those upsells with Viator and the Hostco. Then you can see a preview here. Looks great. Save and return to Journey. And now this welcome email is set up. And then obviously, just need to fix the sending domain once I authorize my DNS. Then let's say you want to add another email sent 10 days later. You can add another delay here of 10 days. And then you can go ahead and create another email. I'm not going to go ahead and create that email, but you could imagine you could, thank them for their stay, ask for a review, give them that code again. And then, even further down the line, you could wait 3 months. Another thing to do here is potentially you could wait 9 months from this email if you don't want to send ones in between, and send like you stayed with us 9 months ago. Do you want to book again for next year? So you could easily do right when they log in 10 days, a month, a month, a month, and then maybe wait several more months when it hits that 9 month mark. So you can imagine a lot of ways you could keep building out this automation to send content on a regular basis. And super easy to create a plain text email, and hopefully that ChatGPT prompt gave you an idea of, I don't even know what to write. I can have AI help me write the email for me. The next one here is monthly content. And so this is where we want to send a one-off newsletter to our guests. And one newsletter that I thought would be great to show you how to create right now is July 4th is just around the corner. And one thing I did is I checked Stay Duvet's website, and I saw that they actually had some inventory still available for July 4th. So maybe I want to do a Sunday to Sunday stay from June 30th to July 7th. Because in this way, maybe I can craft this email about last minute stays for July 4th, where I'm targeting specific inventory that I want to fill, right? Obviously, you can do monthly emails about events in your area, about, last minute inventory like this one, a new property launch. Maybe you don't even know what the best events are in your area. So you could even ask, again, this is where I think AI can be so useful, is you can say, I run and want to send emails about the top events in Charleston. What is a list of events I should send email marketing around? And this is where, if you're not sure what to send, use tools like this to generate or help you generate brainstorming ideas for your email. So here are 6 events in Charleston that maybe I want to make sure, or even more than that, 7. Tons of different events over the course of the year that I could send emails around. But in this case, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make an email around July 4th inventory. So I'm going to go back in, do my search to find what my listings are that I want to promote. And in here, I want to send this campaign to all the data that I have. So I'm going to start with create a campaign. I'm going to call this July 4th, last minute deals. Now here, when it comes to building a subject line, one thing that can be good to increase open rates is to add personalization. So here I can say first name, get, you know, fourth, and then who's sending it. This is where obviously I will want to have a correct sending domain. And then this is where it's really important to where you select who the recipients will be. I want to select, my PMS guests, my Wi-Fi guests, and then if I was collecting guests through my website or uploaded a manual list, that would be this other list here. And so you would want to send it to all your audiences. And then design email, I'm going to show you how to build an email from one of the templates with images. So here, if you go to all here, you'll see all the different templates you can start building from. I'm going to pick this one, travel planning, because this is a really popular one we see people use. And then here, to get started, I'm going to put my logo in up here. Then I'm going to change this background image by just clicking here. And I'm going to replace this with this one I already pulled from Charleston from July 4th. And then here, again, this is where you could perhaps prompt ChatGPT to help you write the email. This is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to write all this copy out, but you get the idea. And this is where, for each one of these areas below, I could feature one of the properties. So you can upload an image of the property, put the property name here, put some text here, and then just link to that property here, and then go through each one so that you can create, a beautiful email featuring 3 properties you have available for July 4th. And then maybe you want to also layer in a promo code here. Promo code will be really helpful if you create unique ones for each email in terms of attribution. So if you created a Stay Duvet promo code, actually it's very nice when I actually go to their website to make a booking. It's very cool. And here you can see they actually have a promo code running on their website. Maybe I'd want to use a different one for the email because I want to see the effectiveness of this email versus this promo code here. And most people's websites aren't going to have this feature to feature a promo code here. So it's very clean. If you place that promo code in your email, if somebody goes ahead and uses it, you can attribute it directly to the email. Then once I'm done editing here, you can go ahead and send it. If you have very large lists, there are some extra cool features here like A/B testing. So if you have lists of maybe a few thousand or more, you can test 2 subject lines. And the way it works is we send the email to a small subsection of your list, see which one opens, which subject line performs better, and then we'll send the rest of the emails to that larger remaining group. So lots of things you can do here to optimize your sending over time. And then once you go ahead and create one of these templates, you saw that it's very easy to pick a template again. So then you can reuse templates that you've made again and again to build emails even faster. Great. So that's really wrapping up the 3 areas that I wanted to cover. So again, just a quick review. Step number 1, make sure you verify your domain. So if you don't have a domain selected yet, go to settings, add the domain here. We will send you instructions for how to add those records to your DNS. And if you need help with it, please email support@stayfi.com. Step 2 is to bring in all your data. So make sure that you have the correct Wi-Fi instructions. Make sure that you bring in all the data from your property management software. And then please import any data you have outside of StayFi, as well as place those forms or pop-ups on your website. Next, first thing that we recommend is create your automation. You can create a multi-step automation. So you can not only have a welcome email, you can proceed to send emails in 10 days, a month. You can even add one 9 months later to do rebooking for the same time of the year to bring somebody back. And then finally, when you create campaigns, leverage our newsletters, think about events in your area, think about last minute availability if you want to push certain inventory, think about new property launches. Those are all things that you can send through StayFi that perform really well. And just remember to select all your audiences. Sometimes I see people send these newsletters only to the Wi-Fi guests. Make sure if you have guest data from multiple lists, you're sending it to everybody that you have within StayFi. Now I'll turn it over to Q&A and start to go through some of these. Can you create a campaign based on a specific date instead of 10 days later, i.e. wanting to create an annual campaign that sends all the big annual events on specific dates? I think that's just a case where you would go in, and when you create these campaigns, you can also schedule them. So if you, let's say, use a tool like ChatGPT and figured out, these are the 9 events that you want to advertise through the course of the year, and you want to do it a certain time in advance, you could create an email and schedule, let's say, for the Oyster Festival to go out at the beginning of January, or Charleston Food and Wine, you could send out in, January or February for this March event. So you can just schedule emails to be sent out in advance for specific events. Someone asks, I have one property I own and run. Is there another word for promo code that is more personal? Less is a great one. Let's figure out what ChatGPT thinks about this one. Special offer, exclusive offer. Oh, they're still going to write it as Stay Duvet. Another thing to do, I would say, if you are operating just one property, is to write it from the first person. So obviously these emails are written from the Stay Duvet team. You might want to write it from, I know I don't have your name because it says anonymous, but you could say, let's just pretend you were me. You could say, hey, this is Arthur from X, I manage this property. And just so you know, it's cheaper if you book directly through me, or costs less than if you book through a third party like Airbnb. Just let me know if you want to return, and I'll give you, certain percentage off, or it will be a certain percentage less. So you could just not use promo code. You could just let people know that if they email you directly, that you will give them that offer. And when you go to create a campaign or edit an automation, right, you have this ability to set who the email is from. This is where I could say it's Arthur from arthur@stayfi.com. And then any emails reply will actually be sent to me, and it will come from my inbox. So in this way, if you write it in the first person and let them know who you are, that you run this property, and that you want to give them an offer, or that it will cost less, or however you want to phrase it, it will be sent from you. And the replies will be sent to you, unless if you check this button here, where you could send replies to a general inbox. So let's pretend that I am a large brand and I want to still send it from me, my persona, but we have like a sales team. That's where I might send it from me, but then replies will go to the sales team, because sending it from me will have a higher open rate because it's more personal, but I can't monitor all the responses. So I'm going to then send the replies to a different inbox. I know it's a little tricky, but that's one way to give yourself the advantage of those like personalized emails, with then the replies going to a generic inbox. Arthur, when importing from Airbnb data, obviously no emails. How do you recommend using text to get emails from past guests that aren't perceived as spam? This is challenging, because you also can't really text people without their explicit permission. I would say your objective when you have someone stay or book through Airbnb is to collect at least the booker's info. So with StayFi, obviously we have a solution to collect emails from everybody there. There are some property management software that have some great tools to collect the booker's info by having them fill out a form, which is definitely not foolproof, because not every guest is going to comply with filling out that form. But that is another way to go about it. I'd say, unless if you're willing to like text guests one-to-one, you really shouldn't upload phone numbers into texting tools if you don't have their permission to text them. So I say it's just going to be hard to go back in time and get those emails through texting, unless if you're willing to, go and text people one-to-one and let them know that you're Olga and you run this property and you'd love for them to come back and stay. And if you could send them an email, that would be the easiest thing to do. It's just, I wouldn't recommend uploading them into an SMS tool, because that could cause problems and get your account if enough people mark it as spam or write back that they don't want your text, that could cause issues for you. When you create an email in a new campaign or automation, does it automatically get stored as a template? That is a great question. It does not. So if you want to go here, you can choose from a recent email, and then you can go and insert these, right? So basically you create a new template from here. But you have to basically pick the last thing you sent and then create it here. There are some like limitations when you create templates, right? Because if you think about it, when I'm creating an email in the automation, I'm picking that list Wi-Fi guests, and there's certain merge fields that are only in that list that are not in other lists. So some of the personalization features are more limited. Like I don't have those extra fields like homepage easily here. So I actually recommend if you're going to send an email to a certain list or to a certain group of people, let's say through an automation, I prefer to build the emails in this builder. And then if you want to go turn them into templates, then you can go and create a template and pick from your recent emails. Because the merge fields, when I'm sending to that specific Wi-Fi list, will be all presented to me in the automation builder, while in the generic template builder, it's not tied to a list. So they don't pull in all of those specific personalization fields. And that's a little complicated, but just in general, my recommendation is to build things in automation and campaigns, and then they'll appear in templates if you want to create a template based on top of it. This is more about Wi-Fi experience. Once they sign on to the Wi-Fi, I created a homepage, but it just has some boxes and a picture of the house that was uploaded. Is there a way to add a backtrack, photos, etc.? Yes, this is about the homepage, but basically, just to explain how homepages work quickly, on the homepage template, you pick which buttons you want to have available. We always have a book again, guidebook, and website button. And then down below here, you can add the host code Viator, as well as any custom buttons you want to add. That's just deciding what buttons you have the option to use. When you actually want to fill what those buttons are, you go to bulk edit homepages. And then here you can put the links in for those buttons. So for instance, to the host code store, here for Viator, we actually put in this widget to pull in those tours and activities. Book again, you can put the links to those specific homes. Then for the images, we're going to try to pull in from your PMS the correct image. You can see here we pulled some in, but they're like getting an error because they're too small. You can unselect this and then upload manually the right image. So you can go into the bulk editor and then upload the right image for each property that's correctly sized if you are getting this warning about the PMS image is too small. And that's where you can go customize each homepage. And then on the right here, you can actually see the preview, and you can test all the buttons here to make sure that they're working correctly. Someone asked, is there a way to integrate Facebook lead generation ads to StayFi automation workflows without manually adding? Not easily. I would say no. So if you are using lead generation ads, I believe you can get like a CSV of the list and then upload it. But honestly, I'm not too familiar with how to integrate those ads with the email tool. I think the answer is no. But because our email tool is built on Campaign Monitor, if there is a way to connect Facebook lead gen ads to Campaign Monitor, you might be able to. But that's one, Courtney, we might have to get back to you on because I'm not actually sure. Debbie asked, I use StayFi for email marketing. What are the benefits of using something like MailChimp? Or I solely use StayFi for email marketing. Yeah, I'd say the big advantage of using StayFi email marketing over third-party tools is our integration with property management software. Because if you use one of these PMS and you want the data to flow in automatically, and you want us to do a job of removing all the fake proxy emails and checking that all the emails are real, we do that for you. And then when it also comes into that data that we pull in from the PMS, we include a ton of other information that you could potentially use in your emails, all these other fields here. We also are less expensive than MailChimp. And I believe the feature set in terms of what short-term rental operators want to do, like automations and campaigns and templates, are all here. MailChimp has some other tools like website building and things like that, e-commerce stuff that are great for those areas. But I'd say the advantage of our tool is everything is built with short-term rentals in mind. And we have it free up to 200 contacts for email marketing as well once you connect your PMS. Someone asked, I saw the 18 and older check for the Wi-Fi login. My question is it better to do birth date? Yes, I tend to think, well, there's kind of like two ways to look at this, right? If your guest says that they're not 18, we do not subscribe them to your email marketing campaign. The one thing that you want to keep in mind, though, is are you going to miss out on adults because they don't fill in the information correctly? So it's kind of like a plus and minus to we want to exclude kids, but we also don't want to exclude adults that we want to collect their emails from. On here, if you do the age consent, you have these two options. You know, I personally think the date of birth will give you more valuable information because you may want to send emails based on someone's birth date, which you can do through our automation tool. So that's kind of what I would lean into doing. With 18 checkbox, someone just could log in and they don't select this, and then they're not going to be subscribed to your email. So personally, I prefer date of birth, but we have both options for you here. Honestly, though, from a legal standpoint, you can legally market to anyone who's 13 and over. So I typically recommend that people don't include this age requirement. I would rather collect all the emails I can. Typically, smaller kids are not logging into emails through the phone using an email. Like they would hand the device to the parent would log in, and then the device is authorized for 30 days. So not including the age requirement will make sure that you are not accidentally excluding adults. And then obviously, if someone is 17 or 16 and they have their own email, they may fill this out. They probably will unsubscribe at some point. So personally, I don't, I wouldn't use the age requirement checkbox just because I want to catch as many adults guests as I can and not have people put in that they're younger than 18 when they're not. I know Troy answered some other questions. I'll just go look through those quickly to see if there's any good ones here to add. What is Ruckus? Someone asked. Yes, I covered that very quickly at the beginning. Ruckus is just another brand of Wi-Fi equipment that's very commonly installed in, I would say, like smaller hotels, or when people, let's say, convert a motel into a short-term rental, they often already have Ruckus hardware. So while we won't sell Ruckus hardware, if you recognize these devices or you have them in your, let's say you manage a building, basically we can now connect StayFi to that equipment to use our captive portal service. So we'll continue to sell the Ubiquiti Unify devices if you want to add StayFi to a property. But this is really to help people who already have Ruckus installed to work with their properties without having them have to add new equipment. Someone asked about sending emails based on checkout date. That is something that you can do to the data you collect from your property management software. So I'll show that briefly here. So if I go into my subscriber list here, into StayFi PMS guests, I can build emails off of any of the data in here. And one of them is last booking departure date. So when I create an automation here, say Wi-Fi guests, I can, or PMS guests, I can trigger information on a date. So I can trigger an information to these emails based on last booking departure date. Should be on that date. You can also trigger something based on an anniversary. So maybe you want to send something based on like 3 months before their anniversary of their sign-in date. You can also trigger that here. So you can use dates or segments to send all other sorts of automated emails here. So basically, you can leverage that data in different ways to create other types of automations to either your Wi-Fi or PMS guest list. Obviously, joins the list is the simplest and cleanest one. And then you can also make segments and send to segments. So let's say you want to make segments based on properties. You can go in here and create segments based on property or property group. So you could create several different segments within StayFi, and then you can send automations to those different segments. So you can really get much more complicated if you want to, where you are creating segments and then triggering emails when guests join those segments. So you could create different emails for different areas or different homes if you use the segmentation tool. Someone asked, what are the biggest mistakes we owners have made when doing email marketing? Biggest mistake is to not do any email marketing. So we do see that with customers, they use StayFi for 3 months, 6 months, they still haven't sent an email. Please start sending emails if you haven't already. Obviously, the fastest way to make sure you send emails is to set up an automation like I showed you with the Wi-Fi, because you'll send it to everybody who logs in automatically. Again, if creating emails seems burdensome or time consuming, that's where sending a very plain text email can make that creation process even faster. Definitely recommend you use tools like ChatGPT, which you saw wrote this email really easily for me. And then finally, we do have this partnership with Switchback, where if you really don't want to do email marketing and you want to outsource it to an agency, they have these options in here where they can actually take over email marketing for you. Someone asked the Ubiquiti equipment, what equipment do you sell? So yes, we sell these devices, these 4 models, Wi-Fi 5 indoor-outdoor, Wi-Fi 6 indoor-outdoor, the long range, and the 6 Plus. There are more models sold by Ubiquiti directly. They have more models than we sell, and we are compatible with any UniFi hardware. So if you want to buy their more expensive devices that we don't sell, like the U7 Pro Max, that will also work with StayFi. Also, this is how you use StayFi. If you're not in the US, you can purchase through them. We include the PoE injector and the cables, and we pre-assign it to your account. So it's obviously kind of include everything you need when you order from us, but you can order from a third party. You just want to make sure you get a PoE injector, which is the power plug, as well as the Ethernet cables to add it to your router. Someone said I hosted an open house and collected emails manually, and people wrote it down. Yes, that is definitely sufficient for approval. So if you had a guest book and people provided their emails, I think it was pretty much, they were opting into your email list, and you can go ahead and add those to StayFi through our kind of upload tool under subscribers here in a new list. And then you just want to make sure if you want to send emails to just those people, you can just select that list when you create a campaign within StayFi. That looks like we got to the end of all the questions. So thank you so much. As I said again, I hope you can attend next month. I mean, in 2 weeks from now. So again, here is the schedule. So today we talked about email marketing. On July 9th, we'll talk about upselling. July 23rd, we'll talk about text marketing. And then finally, August 6th, we'll talk about more in-depth into email marketing, showing some real case studies and more examples. And then we'll have more topics as we go along. And yes, this Q&A will be included. So we will publish this whole video to our YouTube page, and then we will send it out to everybody who registered. So thanks again so much. Hopefully you found this valuable. I think in future sessions, we'll, have this be a little tighter, and we'll definitely get better over time with your feedback. So thanks again for attending, and I hope everyone has a great rest of their week.